everyone, so it is story time video and I have wanted to do this for a really long time. A, because I haven't had a story time video for ages and people keep saying to me, oh, can you do more story times? And it's like, you can, but you have to have a story to tell, and you know, I'm a boring person. I don't have that many stories to share with you, and I'm not going to make stories up, like I swear to God. I'm sure some people must, because if things like that really happen, it's absolute craziness. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what moving to the UK was like for me, and it could be kind of like, you know, helpful for moving to any country really, but I was kind of hesitant because I don't want to get into kind of some personal things that surround it, and some things that kind of affect other people and things like that. I don't really want to talk about that, so I'm going to try and do it in the most honest but kind of honest but not offending anybody. Sorry, my hair's like just being weird. Yeah, okay. So I grew up, and this is another reason that I kind of was shying away from it. I grew up in Israel, and I really don't like talking about that on here because people get really funny about it, and it really annoys and really upsets me, because it's where I come from, it's where tons of my family live, and I can absolutely appreciate all the problematic areas that people have with it as a country and everything, but I don't feel like that because it's home to me, and it really affects me when people say a lot of these things. So I really kind of try and refrain from not talking about that one here because it just gets too much, and I'm warning you now, if you make any kind of comment along those lines on here, it's like you're literally wasting your time, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the comment, I'm going to block you, I'm not going to reply to you, delete you and block you, so you've just wasted your time anyway. So that's just a little kind of part of why I didn't really want to talk about it tons anyway. But yeah, I grew up in Israel. I have an Israeli dad and a English mum, and I spent every summer over in the UK because that's where my mum came from, so we'd always come here for the summers, like on holiday and to visit family and that kind of thing, and you know, spend the whole summer, so it was kind of a good chunk of it. And I kind of always felt like I fit in both areas and didn't fit in both places at the same time, because I struggled a little bit with kind of how blunt / rude people in Israel could be, because I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with a mom who kind of made you say please and thank you, and you had to be very tactful and be aware of, you know, don't say that because it might hurt said people's feelings. Whereas a lot of times in Israel, it's not like that. People don't do it in a malicious way. It doesn't come from a malicious place at all with most people, but it's just comes from a place of, but you have gained weight, or but your nose is really red, or but you know, your bum does look big in it. Why wouldn't I say that it does? Because it's the truth. That kind of mentality. So I did really struggle with that. And then at the same time, every time I came over here, I really struggled because I felt like everybody thought that I was really I don't think people thought I was rude, but people thought I was really opinionated and really gobby, and just, you know, it was weird. It was kind of a weird dynamic in both places. So I always kind of felt a little bit like you didn't quite fit in there and you didn't quite fit in there. And my mum always jokes with us about like with me and my siblings, that we all really like Harry Potter, so we kind of make it into Harry Potter references, and we'll all say, oh yeah, we didn't fit in because we're mudbloods type of thing. And I'm not going to talk about like religion or anything like that in this video because it's irrelevant, and I'm not really into that kind of thing anyway. But you know, I celebrated Jewish holidays and I celebrated Christmas, so kind of I think, you know, you got the best of both worlds. But yeah, we always laugh about the fact that like, oh, where do you fit in? And we always say, I'm just Harry. if you watch Harry Potter, you'll know what that means, relevant to the story anyway. Yeah, so that I always kind of struggled with. And then when I was much older, I met my boyfriend, and I won't go into all of that because it's, like I said, it's personal. I met my boyfriend, and he was English, from England, and well, he's actually like part Maltese and part English, but whatever. We had been together for a while, and then when I was 18, I think I was 18, nearly 19, I was nearly 19 when I moved here, I moved over to the UK. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, in Israel you do have to do mandatory military service, which I did for a little while, and then I had a health problem and I got released. So that was that, and it was a very traumatic experience for me anyway. It's a great experience for lots of people, and I totally understand why it's necessary, but that wasn't the experience that I had. My experience was a very, very traumatic experience, yeah, I had a pretty serious health problem, and I was released. So I then decided to move here, and I didn't, the one thing I always think about is that I didn't really think it through, and that sounds really bad, but I was really in love with my boyfriend, and I just thought, you know, oh, this will be great, and I just did it, and I didn't think of any of like the little things that could happen when I moved, and I just kind of thought, oh, you know, it'll be fun, it's an adventure kind of thing, and to an extent it was / is, but I don't think I was fully prepared for the cultural shock. And what I mean by that is, whenever I used to come on holiday, I used to think, God, people are so nice. People are so polite and so friendly, and people are just so nice. And then when I moved here, and this is why I've kind of shied away from doing this video, I've not been sure if I really want to do this video, is because I don't want it to sound bad and like to offend anybody. But it wasn't until I actually lived here and got to know people a little bit more, and kind of, you know, you observe the society around you, I realised that a lot of times that kind of politeness that I back then perceived as being nice and friendly wasn't. It was just politeness, and that there was, for a lot of people, a very kind of guarded facade, and I think a lot of people were like that, very guarded, and a lot of the people that I came into contact with were just people who didn't necessarily want to get to know you, or want for you to get to know them, or kind of had any real interest in anything other than kind of pleasantries and being polite. And I really struggled with that because I didn't really know that many people, and I didn't move to where the rest of my family, like that live in the UK, lived. So I had my boyfriend, and that was, you know, amazing and great, but I struggled to make friends a little bit for that reason, and I am somebody who, I struggle a little bit making friends with girls a lot of the time. I tend to be more comfortable with men, which sounds really weird, I know, because I'm like the girliest girl, but I don't know, I just struggled, I've always struggled with it a little bit, and I seem to kind of just be able to kind of make friends with men a little bit more, and it tends to only be, I need to add this as well, kind of people that are kind of around my age and that kind of thing, that it seemed to sort of be a problem with, and it still kind of does sometimes now, and so I kind of, that never occurred to me. It never occurred to me, oh, you might struggle to meet people, you might struggle to make friends, you might struggle with employment. That's another thing, because it is very hard on your CV to portray like all your academic achievements, because it's not the same system in both countries. So what would be like, you know, you'd have to put down the equivalent of like A levels or whatever, and it doesn't translate very well on paper, and it doesn't look good on your CV to not have it the same as what everybody else has. And I know for a fact that like lots of times I'd lost out on loads of jobs because of that, and it does. It's a weird thing that kind of doesn't occur to you. And now thinking back, I think maybe I was just really stupid that none of these things occurred to me. But I don't know why. I didn't think it through. I really didn't kind of think about all of these things. And I'm not saying I didn't think it through as in I would do things differently, because I absolutely wouldn't. And like most of my family live over here now, and it is completely different. And I don't think that I would want to go back to live in Israel. I don't think. I don't know. I have days when it rains a lot. I'm kind of like, this is it. This is crap. I'm moving. But I don't really mean it. Like opportunities and stuff here, I think, are better. But the people I struggled with a little bit, and I think that people are just a lot more guarded in letting you get to know them, and wanting to get to know you, generally is what I found. Like, I'm not saying, you know, every person within like the UK is like that. That's not at all what I'm saying. But that was kind of the experience that I had, where I am very open, very kind of warm, outgoing, some would say nosy person. So I just really felt like kind of people kind of kept you at arm's length, and people didn't really want to let you in to find out more about them. It was just very polite, kind of, you know, oh, like, how are you? But they don't really want you to tell them, kind of thing, because people take a lot longer to warm to people. And that wasn't something I was very experienced with, because I think kind of growing up in a country like Israel, like I said, people are very blunt and that kind of thing, but you always knew where you stood with people. If somebody didn't like you, you knew that they didn't like you. There was no kind of, again, I'm not trying to make this like, this is how people here are and this is how people are. It was just my experience of people, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I always, you knew where you stood with people. If somebody didn't like you, it was very obvious they didn't like you, and you're just like, okay, whatever. And people, I don't like, for example, this is a really weird example, okay, but if you would go in a shop, the lady in Israel, this is the lady at the till, could say to you, oh, you're so pretty, you're such a pretty girl. And you'd be like, oh, thank you. Now, if I went into like hostel or somewhere and the girl at the till I thought was really pretty, and this happens all the time, like I see somebody and I think, wow, you're gorgeous. And this makes me sound like an absolute crazy person, but I sometimes feel like I want to say to people, do you know how pretty you are? Seriously, you're so pretty. I would never say that to somebody here, because I have done, and they literally look at you like you're a psychopath. But over there it was kind of like, oh, thanks, you know, cool. It just, there's no, I think kind of the lack of manners makes people a little bit more fluid in kind of how they are with people. And it was just a little bit more relaxed. Now, that's not to say that, you know, it's not bad, because seriously, sometimes people are so rude that it's like mind-boggling how rude people can be. But every time I encountered it here, it was a kind of like a passive aggressiveness, where you had a feeling that person didn't like you, but it was very, very well hidden. And you only got little inklings of it, and it became this kind of like game playing thing, which I'm so crap at, because I'm never quite sure, and then I'm like, am I imagining it? Is it me being paranoid? I don't know. And so the people thing, I really did struggle with it, and I still do struggle with it to an extent, because I feel a lot of the time you have to get very lucky and stumble across people who are and the same vibe as you, and you also have to get to know people for a little bit longer until they open up to you. And part of my problem was I just kind of instantly wanted everybody to like me, and I wanted to kind of be friends with everybody, and it's not like that. People kind of need time to adjust and to make their minds up about you and kind of see how they want to go about it, if that makes sense, which wasn't something I had necessarily experienced before. But then I also think, you know, it's different when you're an adult. It's a different dynamic anyway. So maybe that would have happened in the same way if I still lived there, I don't know. But yeah, those are kind of the main two things I think that I was surprised and that I kind of struggled with. Missing home as well, I did really, really struggle with. Every time there was kind of any family occasion that I missed out on, I felt really, really sad, and I still feel like that, you know, to an extent, even though my family live in the UK now. It's not in the same area, and you can't always be there for everything, and I've gotten better about it. I kind of have less FOMO now, but I did have really bad FOMO for a few years, and it was really difficult for me, but I still feel incredibly jealous of people whose, you know, like mum and dad live down the road from them, and they pop in, you know, every day after work, or go there for Sunday lunch every Sunday. I'm so jealous of people who do that, because that's kind of not something that I've ever really had, and it's always just been something that I've kind of really liked, because I'm really close to my family and I'd really like to be able to do that, but I can't. So yeah, I can't think if there's kind of anything else I want to tell you about this. Oh my god, I've been talking for 16 minutes, so no, there definitely isn't. I'm going to go now, because you're probably thinking, shut the up. But I really want to know your experiences with everything I've talked about in this video. If you have moved somewhere else, I've got loads of friends who have moved to different places, and I know it's kind of a struggle on various levels for loads and loads of people, so I think it's a really interesting topic. I want to hear all your experiences and everything like that down below, and I love you loads, and I will see you in my next video.